One thing I've learned, if you don't hold their feet to the fire, everybody gets burned.
Hold on. Before you start waving around that freedom of speech thing, when you're in a crowded movie theater and you scream fire, you better be able to smell smoke. If you come on this radio show and you start saying incandescent things like that, you better have more behind you, pal, than just your thumb. I've been listening to talk radio for years, and one thing I just can't stand is when the host has to, push his way onto people, beat the callers into his way of thinking, extending his ego. Or when the callers call in and say something so outrageous and the host lets it go unchallenged. The sign you're on the road to truth is the lack of contradiction. You want to find truth, you just don't simply believe somebody because of their authority or their degree, or you listen to what they say, you test it against reality, and you hold their feet to the fire. We are back and we are live. Feet to the fire. I'm your host, James Altheanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. I went live from my phone. I thought it's time I finally figured this stuff out. Also, what precipitated it is our stove went out today. And I had to spend a day out getting a stove and bringing it here and putting it in and taking the other one out and all that. So that kind of blew the day. And rather than just not doing a show, I said, you know what, I can kind of sit here and try it out on the live sense and on the phone, and this would open up for future on-site kind of spur-of-the-moment broadcasts. So if you guys can let me know how this sounds, I'm used to doing in the studio and whatnot, I would appreciate the feedback. I am in the Spreaker chat room at the moment. Shane is here. So you can give me feedback and questions in there as I go through stuff. I'll be checking back with that chat room. I mean, I literally have the phone sitting on my lap, and I don't know how it sounds, so give me some feedback on that. I don't know if me moving around does it, so, help me out with that. I do have some things to talk about. Was planning on saying last week, I want to mention the talk I was having about a LARP, which is a live action role play, abbreviated LARP, which is a form of one of the offshoots of that is the TV reality show, which we know all too well over the years. And what we are actually living in now is a bona fide TV reality show. And if you could take the TV out and put it into media, reality show, whether it be social media or news media, that's what we're living in now. That is our whole thing here. I got Shane is saying it sounds good. Okay, well, good. I wanted to talk through my headset. It won't do it. It uses the mic in the phone, and that's the way it is. So I'm glad it's not bad or whatever. So given that with the LARP, I had a whole thing that I was doing, and then the power went out as I was broadcasting, which was quite aggravating because I have a power backup dedicated only for the computer. Because when the power goes out, it could just burn out your computer. In fact, I lost my BIOS on a former motherboard for that very reason. I didn't realize that the batteries were no longer viable in the unit. It went out and turned off, and I lost the BIOS. I had to pick up another used motherboard, same type, and I ordered a new BIOS to enter in the other one, so that's backed up for next time. But anyway, so this went out, and it was out for a little while. The internet was out for, I don't know, 20 minutes. The 4G on my phone went out, for crying out loud. So I don't know. In fact, I've had, in the last couple of weeks, my cell phone reception and dropouts has been ridiculous. So I don't know if this is coincidence. I don't see how, what is it, standing in place, sheltering in place, whatever. I don't know. I guess the cell phone guys are considered necessary equipment, necessary personnel, so I don't get that. You know, my back, my hair stands up in my back when I think about it, when I start thinking about how this could all be related somehow in some nefarious takeover. In fact, in following this stream of conscious, and I wrote I guess you would call it an article, but it's a post. I don't know how to refer it, on Facebook, which I do have links to. I'll put links in the bottom of this when I can. I'm looking at, in fact, I have a link on feettothefireradio.com. If you go to that webpage, I can't share that anymore on Facebook. That's been banned. But if you go to that, you could see the article describing what I think is going on. The actual virus and all this stuff is real. It's just that it's being exaggerated, targeted, and used to bring about social and political change, attack Trump, discourage the voting and voters and so forth. So that is that article could save me the time of talking about it. Now you can simply read it to get into details. I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. We don't know everything, and so people are coming up with wild swings on what it is, what's going on, which just plays into their hand, because what they want to do is pollute the internet so it won't be a viable competition for their news media. I gotta plug this in here, so there might be a click, or there we go. Realize this is really burning through my battery doing this, so that's something I posted. Also, if you are on the Facebook feed, I have two feeds, which is Feet to the Fire Radio, which basically only posts the shows. My own personal feed, if you search for James Arthur Jancic, Jancic, you'll find it, and you can request to be a friend, or how that works, and then you could be notified, automatically see on your feed if you're so interested. But I've been putting up their thoughts and stuff I've found along the way in these last few weeks in dealing with this, that I'm hoping adds to the stability, the information that's available out there, not complicating it, putting out some of my thoughts, some of my analysis, plus what I have done, and I wanted to mention this. I'll get to this in a minute, but I did do an interview with an extended family member who is working in the hospital with COVID patients, and got some direct answers to questions, which I will share. I did share on this feed. I also made a PDF that I'll be updating now and again that will add to it as I get in more information. That's another thing I'm going to talk about. If you go to there, you will see a GIF also to show how unbelievably, dramatically, incredibly destructive the shutdown is on the economy, and that I was very upset by this. I still am, but it'd be like if somebody was holding you down, holding your mouth and your nose, and you started to thrash about because you're going to suffocate. That is what I was doing, seeing the collapsing of the economy and what could happen to it here. So this is, it really hit me sideways because I've never thought this would stick to this point and how they would do it. But boy, they're doing it and it's sticking. So I have comments on that. I have things to say on that. I got a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna blow through this on my feed. But first, let me get to the main thing I wanted to talk about. I'm getting a phone call here of all things. I can't. I'll have to call him back.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So I talked to a extended family member who was a medical worker for a local hospital, and I asked them several questions. The person when I was talking with them, they qualified themselves as not being a official spokesperson for an hospital, but they are a healthcare worker and they have been for decades. Excuse me. I made the personal decision not to name them nor their hospital. Not that nothing in any nefarious on there, is that what I'm noticing, people are saying things honest from their own experience, and their organizations have come down on them. Now, this person, I thought, didn't say anything that the hospital may be upset about, but nonetheless, that person was more comfortable knowing I wasn't going to be naming their names or a hospital. But it's in a hospital in the Chicagoland area. It's a real person, a real hospital, and the hospital is treating COVID patients. And I don't, it's just, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for real people doing this, and not, not somebody who may have an axe to grind doing YouTube videos or what have you. This is very important, I thought. We're seeing a lot of videos around about the hospitals being empty. And I was, it definitely looked to me like these people are talking about it. The hospitals are empty. I've been to hospitals many times, driving past them, and they're always bustling, and there's nothing out there. So that did bother me. I did post the links to the Film Your Hospital and all this, and it, and people have done this. So I asked her about this, and what I'm saying is a summary of our discussion, rather than I didn't tape it and I'm giving a quote from it. The hospitals appear empty at this time because they have canceled all elective surgery, which is the bulk of their normal bustle and business, in preparation for a surge. So when you go to a hospital and you see all this bustle and hustle, 90% of it, I'm using the term 90 generically to mean the vast majority of all of that is elective or planned surgery, non-emergency surgery, let's say. So they have canceled all of that. And incidentally, a lot of the workers who are scheduled to do these non-elective healthcare procedures and support, they're either being retasked and trained and updated to handle tasks in the actual COVID treatments, or they're actually being let off. They're going home on leave. So you'll see stories of healthcare workers being laid off, and how can this be with all this huge amount of people and all? And that's because they're in preparation for a surge. Now, say the surge doesn't come. That's actually good news. Now they go back to normal, people come back to work. Yeah, it was disruptive, yeah. But if there is a surge and these people are coming in, they need a place to go and to be processed quickly because lives are at stake. So this is the decision these people are making. And I've had this confirmed by other people as well. When I posted this article, another healthcare person who is familiar with me in the show and all that commented exactly the same thing is going on there. And you had another one also comment and say, yes, that's happening here too. Recently, I just had a comment from a family member who knows a long-term friend who works in there, is freaking out because, and I could say the name of the hospital because there's no way to trace them, and it's Palos Community Hospital in Palos Hills, Illinois, which is in Cook County, part of the Chicago area. they have 4 levels that are full, and it's crammed, and she's actually afraid for her own health, thinking about quitting because of the stuff. So there's somebody that's closer to, let's say, if we want to call Chicago ground zero, at least in my area of the nation, there's somebody in closer on there. But let me get back to this individual, because she told me a lot of things. Let's see, hospital. They are waiting for a flood of incoming, projected to be within a week to a 2-week window. Many have now become coming in, and they're starting to fill up these beds. I didn't. Okay, it's coming. Personnel normally involved with routine procedures have been reassigned, and new duties associated with COVID support. Also, retired personnel are being recalled. And again, at the same time, some people are being furloughed while because they're not able to be used in this, and their normal stuff is not happening. And they're not able to be retooled to work into the COVID service. They have, this particular hospital now, they have converted a floor of the hospital that was in usual use to serious COVID patients only floor. There's 3 wings on the floor, 20 beds in a wing, with an ICU in the center, with negative pressure so that no air goes back into the general hospital to leak out the virus. They have a complex way of the air moves into the area, and then they purify it and I guess eject it outside, as opposed to recycle it inside the hospital. So this floor is on standby and ready, and they're starting, as I said, they're starting to put people in. As people come in, the normal routine is they come in and they're tested. If confirmed positive but are not presenting serious symptoms, they are sent home to be self-quarantined for 14 days. If they get worse during that time, they return to the hospital for treatment, evaluation, and are admitted. The lesser of these people are placed in the actual hospital, the worse are placed on this special aforementioned floor. People who are worse in it are intubated, and if they get to that point, survival chances get much worse. And when talking with the person, they were saying that, well, when they incubate, it's kind of like, uh-oh. Most don't come out as opposed to come out at that point alive. There isn't a uniform treatment regimen. Basically, you have to beat the virus. I was kind of surprised with this. When you go in there and you're admitted because you are in either critical or at least in bad shape, hospitalization level shape, they keep you from contaminating others, and they try to keep you alive until you beat it, or not. Individuals and doctors may choose to use additional methods like HCQ, well aware of the HCQ and Z-Pack and whatnot, but it's up to the individuals who are in there. So there's not, in the hospital, and this is, I also want to mention, this is a series of hospitals, and this procedure is universal across these hospitals in the Chicago area. So it's up to you to beat it. And I was also talking to others. They said it's very common with a virus. There really isn't, in many cases, there isn't a direct way to treat them. They have antivirals in general, and they have things to make life miserable for it, but they don't have, like, here, this kills it. So this is what the procedure is. And that's a little distressing, because if you go in there, basically they're trying to keep you alive until you beat it. And if you don't, well, they tried. So that was a little sobering when I actually kind of sunk in with that. One of the nurses did get affected and got to the point where now she's intubated. So that means it's not looking good for her at this hospital. If someone is exposed, they use safety procedures to protect the patients as they continue to work. If they test positive, they go home for 14 days. They do the same deal. If they get worse, as with the other people tested, they return back to be admitted, or they show no symptoms. When they retested, they can actually return to work. All hospitals in this group keep complete internally open inventory, so all know what the status are of their equipment, so no rumors or fears can be started. They are conserving items, but in no way are they withholding materials needed to properly treat the patient and also remain clean. So you're not reusing bloody gowns or what have you. The hope in all this preparation, the canceling of elective surgery, the building of temporary buildings like in the parking lot, etc., the hope is it won't be necessary. But if a flood comes in, as they fear, they'll be ready to handle a large influx quickly. It's like, in this case, compared to like the regular flu, which hits seasonally, those people come in. They kind of come in on a semi-regular flow throughout the flu season. Whereas what's happening with this is that they're coming in, they're not here, not here, not here, and all of a sudden, wham, there's a million of them, and then they got to deal with them. This is what they're planning for. Now, if it doesn't happen, okay, good, great. As I said, this person is an extended family member and is not with the hospital PR nor management. They don't have a podcast. They're not trying to, do anything. I have no reason to believe them to be lying or even mistaken. Plus, what they said makes logical sense. They agree to keep in touch and keep me updated. So I thought it would be good to actually talk to somebody who's on the scene rather than have people, like, for example, if you start filming the outside of the hospital and there's nobody there, well, that could be a big problem. Because you're not getting the whole point. You're getting like one part of it, and wow, this hospital was busy. Now it's empty. What's going on? Also, I forgot to mention in the earlier little article is that this hospital has now implemented a 5-minute COVID-19 test, which helps them weed out and focus on the patients very quickly. So that is that particular aspect of it. Let me go through quickly. And again, if you can go to the Facebook page, you can go through a lot of the stuff here without at your leisure. About this hydrochloroquine, I put up articles. Thousands of doctors are agreeing it's the best treatment for COVID, especially since there isn't a treatment. Okay, so now here's some kind of treatment. And a lot of people have been saved by it. I'm kind of weird about why is there some kind of like a resistance to try this stuff? It's already approved. They already know the problems. Certain people with heart problems can't do it. There's already like a risk reward feature on it for malaria and rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. So the fact that they're going, anecdotal evidence is like, and it's not even, it's generic, it's not expensive. And now you have reported there's a pharmaceutical company in Israel who's making tens of millions of them and giving them to the United States. Other companies are being asked and or mandated to produce them. So to me, it'd be like, yeah, if I was in the hospital and I was not doing, if I was getting worse, whatever, I would try it. No problem. I would do that rather than the vaccines, which have another boatload of problems with it. So I wanted to mention that. Also, I got an article on here. It's a clip. Actually, it was on, I think it was on Waters World, where there's a doctor who talks about a very simple, easy way to almost guarantee you don't get it. Clean hands and don't touch your face. Period. And this is a doctor, and he goes like, I was worried about this until we figured this out. If it goes through your nose, your mouth, or your eyes. If you touch anything with your hands and you touch your face, there's where it enters. Plus, to add to that, if you drink hot fluids, it clears out your throat. It flushes the stuff down in your stomach where it's killed. And so it's like all this hoopla about shutting people out of work and cutting them down. All you have to do is keep your hands clean. Constantly clean them, if you touch anything, clean them. Don't touch your face. That's it. In fact, the mask, I've heard people talk, some of the doctors mentioned that wearing a mask, if nothing else, it might prevent you from touching your mouth or nose, your eyes. Well, your eyes would be open, but, it would be a reminder. Having gloves on might be a reminder, though the gloves themselves are going to be contaminated. So you can't touch your face with the gloves. Well, that's another important thing on it. Now, there's a video I also put up where there was literally a massive line of police breaking up a birthday party. This is ridiculous. They're shutting down the churches and whatnot. There's there's no way constitutionally that they could be doing this stuff. And again, if you take charge of your life, it's like I'm a truck driver. I drive defensively. I've had a pretty good truck record. I mean, God bless, thank God. But if you drive defensively and watch out for the other people, you're going to have a better chance of not getting in an accident. If you're counting on them to do the right thing, you're raising your chances of an accident. So if you're walking out in public and you're depending on other people to be clean and not do things, now you're putting yourself at risk. You do it. You keep your hands clean. Don't touch your face, your eyes, mouth. You can gargle with salt water. Keep your nose and your mouth moist. That also helps stop the virus from taking hold. Drink hot liquids, to help kill stuff. You can even flush your nose out with the salt stuff, warm salt water. Wash your hands with hot water. The heat kills it. The soap kills it. What it actually is a protein molecule surrounded by fat that has a mechanism to break into your cell. If the fat is melted, the protein breaks down and becomes ineffective. So it's not really alive and it's killed, but it's a molecule assembly that has been made inert and not biochemically non-effectable. So I think there's a bunch of other stuff on here. They're all kind of tag teaming on the point that this is being used by the powers that be to make social programming, political changes, and it really is a test of what it'd be like in the Soviet America by having all this stuff. That's very important. There's a lot of people doing on this now. I just, I got a problem with all of this trust in the plan, and that people know this, not to belabor the point, but this is what I talked about earlier, and I'll close with this. This is when I talked about this LARP last week, and it got cut off, whatever, but a live-action role-playing game, a TV reality show, or let's say a media reality show, that's where we're at now. And people are vying for narratives. Those narratives aren't necessarily factual, but the narrative is what pulls you into the drama. And by pointing you, misleading you in information, withholding information, or turning your view of it a certain way is what these narratives are. In reality, this is really a hostile takeover. What are the things that are happening? There's no more talk about Biden and his son and Ukraine. That's gone. The Hong Kong demonstrations, they're gone. Well, to their credit, they're still demonstrating in France, but that's not in the media. All this talk is gone, and all you hear about is the huge number of deaths. They're not multiplying, dividing properly. You have to divide the death count into total cases. They don't have a total cases. They just have a tested cases. And as they get more aggressive with testing, you'll notice that the death rate falls or it doesn't rise. Because when they test more people, they find out that there's a small number of people are in the hospital and even smaller number of people are dying. A website I'd recommend, I will read it to you, covidtracking.com. I've been using this by simply doing the math. There's now 1,700,000 tests, 1,400,000 negatives, 333,000 positives. The death is almost 10,000, but when you subtract that when you divide it into it, it's not a huge number. It's still less than the regular season flu. So the idea is to get yourself the real data. Don't listen to like wild stuff. I mean, look it up and look into it. I watched the people with the empty hospitals, and so what did I do? I talked to someone who works in a hospital that I can trust, knowing that there's no connection. There's no axe to grind by them saying good or ill. They're just telling it like it is, and that's the kind of information you need to find out what's really going on. Unfortunately, you can't trust anybody anymore, whether it's nefarious or they're just incompetent or whatever. You have to go out and check this stuff yourself and look for various things. Yeah, I got Eddie. Fast Eddie was from Radio Heart. He actually had his lung drained. He says it isn't fun. He had it twice last year, and he made it though. He's like he's an indestructible man. He's in the chat room talking. So I think that's going to be it for the covering. I wanted to just not say nothing, and I had these things I wanted to bring. And in editing, I have to hit the hay soon because I got to work tomorrow. But all these articles I talked about are on my feed on Facebook. I've been trying to share most of them on the Gab feed that I have, some on Twitter. I do have a couple of things on my own website, feedtofireradio.com, but since I can't post feedtofireradio.com on Twitter, on Facebook anymore, what I've been doing is posting on Facebook and then passing it around, doing the show or what have you to give the information. So I think at that point I will go and give some feedback, how you think about this. And this way, I thought about just doing some stuff in the truck, but until I could figure out how to use my headset, it would be too loud with the microphone going from the other thing. So let me, I think we're going to go here. So hang in there. I watched the 10 Commandments yesterday. Great movie, my favorite movie, very inspirational. You got to hang in there and do the right thing for the right reasons. Remember, we're all going to die someday. And to make our life live worth it, just come down to it. We'll see you later.
Oh, my old friend, the one who walked before, the one who walked again, the ancient one of old, with wisdom for the new. Revive our inner sight, retell your timeless truths. Oh, ancient one.
Feet to Fire is a production of IPS Media Works on the OnSync Radio network of stations.